So, I bought an iPhone. Now, this is not an amazing revelation for many people. However, for me, this is my first iPhone I've bought, I think, since the iPhone 5. So it's been many, many years. So it's the iPhone SE, the cheapest iPhone available. And the reason I got it, well, we'll go into that in a bit. Let's open it up and take a look. Now, I actually got two packages today, so I'm not actually sure which one it is. I think it's this one, because it didn't come from Amazon, so I can go away. So as I'm opening this box, I'm just going to talk about why I stopped using iPhones and why I decided to buy this one. Basically, I was a bit of an iPhone fanboy for many years, especially when they first came out for the first like 5 or so years. Loved them. All of my phones were iPhones. And as I got older and more cynical, I just started to realize that I don't want to spend £1,000 on a phone or $1,000. So I moved on to Android. There's cheaper options. Still pretty expensive, but slightly cheaper. Oh, come on. So I moved on to kind of more flagship Android phones. But even then, I thought this is a bit ridiculous, still spending like $800, $900. When I started this channel, it started to get a bit more popular and companies started sending me their kind of mid-range phones. So like from Xiaomi, I got sent a couple of phones that were worth like $250, £250. And I found them to be basically as good as the iPhones I was using. Well, I found them personally to be not far off in terms of capability. My Poco phone that I had last year, I thought that was amazing value. So yeah, I just found them to be way better value. But then Apple announced the iPhone SE, or at least the latest 2020 version of this phone. So this is their cheap version. This is their cheap phone. It's still $400, £420. So for me, not super cheap, but compared to iPhones, like literally half the price of their most expensive models. So I am curious to see how good it is, like if it can beat these cheaper phones to cheaper Android phones. I'm basically looking to replace my Mi 9 SE, which I've had for about a year now, and the Realme 6. So these are both phones that are around about $250, $60 or £250. And basically I'm going to choose between those three and see which one is going to be my next smartphone, my next main phone. So we're going to start with the iPhone. I'm going to try it again, give it the benefit of the doubt, see if the cheapest iPhone is really as good as some of the more mid-range, less expensive Android phones. So let's open her up, see what she looks like, and see if iPhones can once again impress me. Okay, so let's open up the iPhone SE and see what we've got here. So you've probably noticed already that I have got the red version of the SE. Now the only reason I did that is because, well, I do kind of like the color red. Also, if you get the red version, a small amount of the, I guess, profit or revenue from that goes towards charity. And I think they've chosen a COVID-19 charity. So I just thought, well, why not? I might as well for this purpose of this. Am I supposed to do that? That explains it. Why am I such an idiot? Oh, very nice. See, that's what Apple is good at, making things easy. I remember this takes me back to when I had my first iPhones. I found this very exciting. Here we go. So this is the iPhone SE. When I was looking at the specs of the phone, I did notice that it's basically the same in many ways to the iPhone 8. It's got a 4.7-inch Retina HD display with a resolution of 1334 by 750. Oh, I love this bit. Ooh, yeah. Nice. Oh, so satisfying. Oh, amazing. But I think the size is fine. Some people prefer a small phone rather than a huge one. I think I am certainly one of these people. I've forgotten how you turn them on. How do you turn an iPhone on? Oh, there it is. So while that turns on, what else do we get? We get the earbuds or the earphones. I refuse to get Apple's wireless earphones because I know I will lose them and they are so expensive. But I do like that they do give you these for free, or not for free, but in the box itself. That is good for me. The iPhone SE is almost identical to the iPhone 8 in many respects. It has basically the same screen, it has the same dimensions, the same weight. The one main difference is the fact that the iPhone SE has a much more powerful processor. In fact, it has the same processor as the much more advanced iPhone 11. This should allow it to use more advanced apps, play more advanced games, and even shoot slightly better photos and videos. It does just have one camera at the rear, which I think is going to be a slight issue to sell to some people. A lot of much cheaper Android phones have multiple cameras now, some 4 or 5, like some ridiculous amount of cameras, whereas this only has one. It's going to struggle to reproduce the kind of photos we can get with those multiple cameras. My first impressions, just seeing the screen and seeing the size and holding it, it is taking me back to the fact that iPhones are really comfortable to use. They look so good. I really like the red here, actually. I'm glad I chose red. Even if it wasn't for charity, I probably would have chosen that anyway. You can see here, this is the charity that it goes to. So yeah, more than happy to do that. And I think it looks great anyway. So I do think iPhones still rule the roost when it comes to how good they look in terms of the quality of the screen and in terms of the build quality overall. I think this looks amazing. Even that's my first impression. It just reminded me of my first iPhones, and I thought they were really awesome. And I think this just feels really nice. It's quite light, but not light enough to be cheap. Yeah, I really like the look of it. It looks so cool. Okay, so I've gone through the setup process and now we're ready to just start using the phone. I have boosted the brightness to basically its maximum to see what the screen looks like, and it does look pretty good. I must say the display is as crystal clear as I remember it used to be. What I do think is a shame is that in 2020, I don't really like this kind of not edge-to-edge display. Even if I compare it to my much cheaper Mi 9 SE, we can see the screen on the Mi 9. Let's just turn the brightness to be fair in the comparison. The Mi 9 SE, the screen is basically edge to edge. So, I mean, it has this little notch up here, which is why I do think the iPhone SE 2020 is pretty much a clone of the iPhone 8, and the design of the iPhone 8 is a bit dated. I do think this design isn't the best, but the screen is bright, the screen is clear, it's colorful. If we look at the thickness of both of these phones, then the Mi 9 SE is, as you can see, slightly thinner and doesn't have this weird camera thing sticking out here. It does have slightly sticks out a little bit, but I think laying it flat on the table, it's definitely not going to move around as much as my Mi 9 does, which is one of the bad things about that phone. So I'm going to do a comparison between these phones at a different date, but for now, my first impressions of the iPhone is that it looks good, it feels good, it probably works really well. Let's face it, it's an Apple phone. Whether it plays games as well as everyone says, I'm going to check that out. Definitely going to test the camera and the gaming capabilities of this phone, but I do think the design is a little bit dated. It is basically a clone of the iPhone 8. Yeah, but we'll see how it goes. So I am officially, once again, an iPhone user. I'm going to heavily test the camera, the gaming capabilities, because that's basically what is the main point of this phone, is that it has a really powerful processor, despite being around about the 400 mark. And I'm going to be comparing it to a lot of other Android mid-range phones to see if it can actually beat them, or if these much cheaper Android phones from Xiaomi, from Huawei, Redmi, Realme are really better value, because they also have fairly powerful processors and lots of cameras and big screens. Can a cheap iPhone really compete with the huge amount of cheaper Android phones available right now? That's what we're going to find out. I must say, I do miss how good the operating system is, iOS. I have missed iOS. Also, I just got a new lens, which you probably don't care about, but I am now going to use it to create a series of amazing shots of the new iPhone SE. Until next time, I'll see you around. Bye.